This is Ethan and Kayla arguing to what extent the containment of animals is justified.
Although some zoos have been known to abuse animal rights, the use of many of these establishments to conduct scientific research and to help preserve endangered species justify the containment of wild animals. In current times, the controversy of SeaWorld has become a growing issue. This marine park has been proven to abuse and not provide adequate living conditions for its animals. The mistreatment of marine animals in SeaWorld has sparked debates over the premise of containing animals as a whole, leading many to become opposed to zoos and aquariums without being aware of the good that many of these establishments provide.
The first zoos, forms of which appearing as early as 4000 BCE, focused on the element of entertainment for the zoos. In this early confinement, animals were abused, mistreated, and sacrificed. As this new institution became more widespread, private zoos emerged as a way to show off wealth. The upper class collected animals and used them to entertain their company. With little knowledge of the animals they owned, many animals died due to the lack of proper care. The continuation of this practice led to growth in the popularity of this type of amusement, resulting in the first establishment resembling a modern-day zoo. The first of these was built in 1793 in Paris, France. As more people were introduced to the containment of animals, there became a larger push for animal rights. Regulations on the care and treatment of these animals became more important, and with the help of the Animal Welfare Act, signed into law in 1966, the purpose of zoos began to change. Today, zoos and aquariums focus on helping species through preserving wild animals and educating the public while conducting scientific research.
Concern for animal rights did not become prominent until the late 1800s. This movement gained popularity but largely became powerful during the civil rights movement from 1954 to 1968. During this time, the rights for women, African Americans, and many more were being fought for more than ever. The civil rights movement propelled support for animal rights, causing the Animal Welfare Act to be passed. This regulated many aspects of animal treatment, greatly impacting zoos. The passage of this act not only forced establishments into treating their animals better, but also spread knowledge of the issue, causing the public to question the humanity of all zoos, aquariums, and other forms of animal containment.
The topic of zoos and contained animals is controversial because these forms of entertainment have been known to mistreat animals. However, as more time has passed, the treatment of animals in these establishments have greatly improved, now focusing on saving and helping animal populations not only in the zoos but in their natural habitat. As good as this is, it is not true for every zoo, which is why this is an ongoing debate in today's society. Using zoos and aquariums to research animals that are hard to observe in the wild, countless animal lives can be saved. With these scientific observations, scientists have been able to use them in other fields to help wildlife. Dr. Jason Bruck, a marine mammal scientist, says how the development of new drones to help study the health of wild dolphins and new methods of saving beach animals are just a couple of the results coming from the studying of animals in containment. This shows the immense number of benefits that come with the ability to study animals up close in a zoo or aquarium. In another article, Derek Lartard puts the relationship of contained animals and wild animals in a fitting metaphor, calling zoo animals the ambassadors of wild animals, because they help educate people about the wildlife and what they can do to protect it. He goes on to mention how zoology is the scientific study of animal behavior and biology, which is where the word zoo comes from. This article shows how zoos are incredibly important to the spread of knowledge in regard to animals. Without the ability to watch and learn about these wild animals, humans would lack significant information on how to care for and protect these species in their natural habitat.
Zoos and aquariums have helped protect endangered species by keeping them in a safe environment. Species like the California condors, which in 1985 had a total of 9 recorded birds in the wild. A program was created from a combination of the state government and zoos to help bring these condors back from the brink of extinction. Only with the use of zoos as protected and contained environments could these birds have efficiently and safely recovered. Every young bird was hand-raised by the people wearing hand puppets that mimicked adult birds to avoid them from relying on caregivers. Now the population has jumped from 9 to more than 400 birds, another 240 now back in the wild. Zoos are one of the only facilities that have the human resources, space, and money to nurse endangered animals back to a stable population number. The public has also dramatically polar opinions about zoos. In a survey done in 2020, people were asked if keeping animals in zoos was acceptable, which was met with very mixed responses. They were then asked if it was acceptable if the animals being contained were individuals from a threatened species, kept in the zoo for conservation purposes, which resulted in a resounding yes from 82% of pollers. This shows how the justification of keeping zoos in the public eye changes dramatically for what the purpose of zoos are, and most sanctioned zoos have conserving endangered animals as a very high priority in their agenda, making these zoos much more justified to the normal person.
Some zoos have been known to infringe on animals' rights and abuse these animals in captivity. They will throw animals in cages and give them little to no food to cut down on costs. Statistically, 96% of elephants in entertainment facilities are treated terribly. People in the animal entertainment industry have no regard for how animals are treated. They are much more interested in money. This, however, does not correlate with many people who work in more credible zoos, who are very invested in the animals' well-being and always strive to improve the zoos they work in to treat their animals better. Another pretty shocking statistic is the fact that in 2020, 75% of zoos and aquariums have some sort of animal abuse. This means it has become almost normal for zoos to abuse their animals. However, our world is moving so fast, new regulations and continuation of animal protests have been changing the way zoos treat animals and making them cleaner, more humane, and focused on improving conditions for captive animals.
Most people who support zoos and aquariums are scientists and researchers who find benefit in using these zoos for the safety and well-being of wild animals, alongside the not so well-intentioned businessmen who own or invest in zoos, profiting heavily from them. People who advocate against zoos are animal activists and organizations that are for animal rights. These people believe zoos infringe and abuse animals for entertainment and money and demand the immediate emancipation or complete legal changes to the treatment of contained animals.
Over time, zoos and other forms of animal containment, although remaining similar in theory, have changed immensely. The fundamental idea of zoos has remained constant, as it is the design of containing animals for public viewing. However, the principles and morals behind this basic plan continue to evolve from what they originally were. In the first zoos, the focus was on the profitability and human enjoyment with little regard to the animal's care or well-being. This meant this meant that the contained animals were mistreated, abused, and killed. As years passed, however, a concern began to grow for animal rights, and this inhumanity began to improve. Zoos today focus on protecting species and educating the public on the animals that we share the planet with. Many animal containment establishments are there to help the animals, not profit from them.
Groups like the AZA, the American Zoo and Aquarium Association, and others regulate and make sure that animals in zoos are taken care of and treated correctly. AZA is a very big leader in making the change that we want to see. They are striving to regulate the zoo industry with better standards for the caretaking and living conditions of animals. They make sure they only support and work with reputable zoos that pass their background check and guidelines. Groups like these that don't want to necessarily get rid of zoos entirely, but work to better zoos, is exactly what we want to see, because then both the animals and the animal activists are happy as the animals are no longer being mistreated. Scientists and zoo activists will also be satisfied as they can continue to study animals and help save those that need shelter. Although, at the start of the 21st century, the U.S. government was adding new laws to aid the well-being of animals in containment. Recently, they have not been doing very much for zoos and aquariums. On top of that, the laws that they have put out are very hard to enforce as a lot of the shady dealings of zoos go unrecorded or tracked. This causes U.S. government involvement a main priority if we want to strive to change how animals are treated. I believe with the way the world is moving, the treatment of animals will just get better and better. In all aspects of our lives, people are protesting for more rights. As the treatment of humans keeps progressing, the treatment of animals is soon to follow.
This is our bibliography.
We went to the Woodland Park Zoo, where they go to great lengths to make sure that the animals that they have in captivity are treated well and have exhibits that are very close replicas to where these species would live in the wild. Many of the animals in Woodland Park Zoo are part of conservation projects. Outside of the zoo, this establishment donates and heavily works towards saving animals and creating better lives for them in the wild.
This is what that jungle do. You been plotting, it wasn't you. I should've never even with you. Yeah, I started in the back, had to skip the line. No, I'ma keep that shit back till my time go. Throw you in the shade, cause they wanna shine. No, throw me in the grave in the Ferragamo. Man, I can't believe they killed my bro Quado. Was so deep, I had to say that with my eyes closed. That made me wanna treat him like he John Doe. Nah, I know me Rondo, nah, that John Doe. This is all I ever wanted. Why would I let you take it from me? I ain't stupid, ain't no dummy. A couple fingers on a couple triggers. You been plotting, wasn't you? I should've been watching from the jump with you. This is what that jungle do. Started what I started. Anybody want a problem? This is my shit. Tell them if they want a problem. I'm from High Bridge. Got a nigga with a shotgun up in my way. Making bitches go retarded with the. Why you think my name is artist? I'm an artist. I woke up to a Menage. I'm just being honest. I get money if I want it. I'm a carpet. If a nigga wants static, let him have it. Have you ever seen a mini semi-automatic? It go dumb like a drum, hit a beat blasting. When it come to that fire, I'ma drag it. This is what that jungle do. Yeah, this is what that jungle do. Been plotting, it wasn't you. I should've never even with you. I was walking in the rain with my Tim's on, stepping over puddles full of pain. It's a big storm. 13 on my ball mains. It's a big storm. In the club, let them make it rain. Like what? We don't with you. No, I'm all about my buck. Yeah, I don't trust. Ever since I was a young coming up, there ain't nobody show me love. Those it's just sauce. Yeah, this is what that jungle do. This is what that jungle do. That jungle turned me to a monster. That jungle made me go harder.